Hi, Chiranjeevi. Good morning.
Hi, Karna. Very good morning.
So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Anything exciting coming up?
Yeah. So we're working on Gen AI Master Course for kids.
Oh,
So the preparation is going on very well, and we're looking forward to taking it to the kids.
interesting. I mean, generative AI for kids, that's a very big task to take on. But yeah,
Yes.
very well. So, by the way, the word generative AI reminds me of a buzzword LLMs. I mean, everyone is just talking about LLMs. So, is there any connection between, LLMs and generative AI if it's used or something like that?
Oh yeah. See, LLM stands for Large Language Model. That's part of NLP, Natural Language Processing. Right? If
All
you
right.
see the whole AI, so you might get a question also like, what is generative AI and what is AI? Right? Because LLM, it can be a part of generative AI, right? Which is part of deep learning process. You might have heard about it, right? Deep learning and machine learning. So machine learning is a superset, deep learning is a subset, and within that you can take generative AI is a subset, and within that LLMs and other things would be there.
All right.
So that's why they're related.
Okay. Of course, you told me the full form of LLM, but how it actually works, what it is all about, what does it do? Can you just give us a little bit of knowledge on that?
Sure. See, basically, LLM is like very good at predicting the next best word,
All right.
right? For example, let's say you ask to create a story, you ask LLM to create a story, like ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT is an LLM. What does it do? It creates a story,
Hmm.
right? How does it create a story? For example, you ask about, okay, can you create a story on moon? Right? It creates like a human being, in fact, very fast, right?
Right.
So that's the capability of LLM. It can predict the next best word, right?
Okay.
So yeah, it has got so many other capabilities, but fundamentally at the core, it understands your question, it processes your question, and it generates text. Yeah.
Okay. So, of course, you have brought up ChatGPT, everyone's favorite tool as of now. So, why anyone have not thought about it earlier or not done it earlier? Why is it just the last 2 years that everyone is talking about it? If the companies, you say it predicts the next best word, right? So, Google has so much of data. Then why did Google do it?
You know what? In fact, this whole thing started at Google only,
Okay.
right? So Google, has been doing lots of experiments and bringing lots of changes on how a system can process text, right? Because they have billions of web pages to crawl,
Yeah.
right? They were continuously enhancing the searching process, and in that process they kind of implemented or found out, okay, yeah, there is something different that we can do, right? So they wrote a paper called "Attention Is All You Need." Right? The papers, right? These
Yeah.
technologists, they experiment and they publish papers,
Yeah.
right? So from those papers, all others, they get ideas and they do some more experiments, right? See, I'll take you to the past, right? Because that's a very important thing. But yeah, as been working closely with Google search results. All right. Most of my life, I've been continuously watching how Google is functioning. Right. So, what is Google? It needs to give you the answer. It needs to give you the best possible web pages. Right. So, how does it give you? It needs to know.
Basically, you type a SEO.
Yeah, right. So you type a keyword, it needs to search through all the web pages and it needs to tell you, it needs to show you, hey, this is the best web page for your query.
Right.
But it was okay in the beginning, but later they found Okay, are we just matching the keyword, or are we also trying to understand the intent of the user? Because all people may not type in the question in the same way, right? Some people may type in the reverse, right? It's not just one direction, it is bidirectional analysis that the search engine has to do, right? That's why they kind of implemented a model called BERT, BERT, which is about this bidirectional analysis, right? So this BERT and attention is all you need. So there is a relation. So that's starting point, right? So from there, I guess that was released in the year 2017, 16. I don't remember exactly. That's the turning point, right? So around the same time, the process of deep learning started in 2016. Okay, so that was another turning point. So, do you know what is deep learning?
Deep learning is basically when the machine or the system learns on itself. Machine learning is where we tell them do this, do that, and this the data is provided. But deep learning is when it's learn on its own, starts learning on its
Absolutely,
own.
absolutely. See, basically, a LLM, right? You asked why it didn't happen in the past, right? So to connect all of these dots, we didn't have a lot of computing power, we didn't have a lot of data, and we didn't have the algorithms which actually can process all of these things. You need three things always.
Right,
You need data, you need computing power, you need an algorithm,
right,
right? So as you know, the technology grows in steps, right? Sometimes it evolves very fast, right? So far, though the whole process of AI, the concept of AI started in 1956 or 60s, but they didn't have all those things, right? So when did we start using computers?
and for me,
Maybe,
it's since my childhood,
right around 2000s,
two thousands.
personal computer, internet, right? And from those inventions, people started creating a lot of data, right? Prior to that, we had in books only the data information, right? But after the computerization, after the internet, after the mobile, the data started exploding, right? So how many photos you take in a day today?
Good 50.
50. Some people like me, maybe 100, 200, right? When we go on a trip, thousands. So that's all data, right? You're writing so many documents, right? You're producing a lot of content. That's all data. You are doing lots of things on the web, on mobile devices. That's all data, right? So, number one, data. We have so much of data today, right? That's why we're able to do it. Number two, the computing power, right? If you closely look at all these AI systems, they need a lot of processing power, right? For example, you have a computer. Just imagine you load a very big file into your Adobe Photoshop. What
Oh,
does it do?
it starts showing me error. The system isn't
Why?
working.
Why? Because there is a limitation, right? It cannot process more than what it can process. But for AI operations, you need to have bigger computers, bigger processing units to process lots of operations in real time, right? So, and fortunately, we made a lot of progress in that region, right? So we used to have CPUs, then GPUs were invented. What is CPU? Central Processing Unit, which has limited capacity. And then they invented GPUs for graphical
Graphics.
processes, right? Because graphics require an additional process, right? So though they were initially implemented for gaming, then the AI scientists they started understanding the power of it. Hey, how about we use GPUs for our AI processes? Right? It started working, right? So number two, the computing power has increased, and now you might have seen Nvidia, the company which is
God.
making waves, right? So they are powering lots of AI companies today, right? So that is second factor. And what is the third factor? The algorithms, right? So there has been an improvement in that area also. Especially, it all came from Google,
Yeah.
right? So it started with Google, and some people from Google they went outside. But before that, they started a company. They bought a company called DeepMind, who were doing exceptional job in AI, right? So they kind of created AI to play a game called Go. Go is like very complex than chess. You know how to play chess?
Yeah, I can manage to win sometimes.
Yeah, me too. Right? So they created an AI algorithm which actually uh, kind of defeated the world's best player in Go. That guy was crying actually. Right? So it started there, and some people from DeepMind they went outside and they started a company called OpenAI, right? Which is the creator of ChatGPT, infamous ChatGPT. Right? So everything started, kind of conversing, right? So these guys they took the advantage. They did some processes which actually created a very good LLM.
Okay.
Hope
Well,
that answers your question.
yeah, definitely it answers my question.
Yeah.
So now that we know that we have LLMs and why people didn't do it earlier, so now where are these LLMs actually used? I mean, of course, ChatGPT is one of them. I know Midjourney. Is there any other way that these LLMs can be used?
So basically, you know, Midjourney is a different process, right? Midjourney works on a different model called diffusion model
Diffusion.
because that is related to images, right? Whereas this one, ChatGPT, it works on large language model, right? There can be now
Right, there are
multi-modal
two
model.
different things.
Yeah, now they are coming up with multi-modal. That means which can do both operations. Okay,
Yeah, that's what I understand. Like LLMs are now also creating those images, right?
images. So they use internally multiple models, right?
Okay.
So these models can be used in any place where there is a need to generate content. Okay. For example, ChatGPT is open interface for anyone.
Hmm.
You go, you ask any question, right? Imagine the same situation inside a software like Canva,
Right.
right? Or Notion, or for that matter, any software today, right? The video softwares,
Right.
right? So everywhere it is being used.
I mean, every app that I open these days, whether it's Adobe, whether it's Meta, everyone is using it.
AI, they have to, right? So, for example, in Notion or even Buffer, right? We use Buffer for social media posts.
Mm.
All you need to do is give some basics, and it creates the description,
Right.
right? So there is an LLM. We don't know what LLM they're using. Probably they might be using OpenAI because OpenAI also gives LLMs for the developers, right? ChatGPT is one way to use it for the consumer, regular consumer, and they also give something called as API. That means they can interact through program with their core LLM. Okay, so with that, you don't need to always go to ChatGPT. You can integrate that specific task, that specific functionality within your own application. Yeah.
I think that reminds me of one of the news that once OpenAI suspended a lot of businesses, and overnight people who were earning with those tools have stopped earning because
Yeah.
they were
So
connected to those OpenAI.
possible. That's why that is the next thing, right? Why you shouldn't just be dependent upon one LLM, right? That's why there are so many other options now. It's
Right.
not just OpenAI. Now we have Anthropic Claude,
Yes.
right? And we have many open source alternatives like Mistral, Falcon, MPT, right? But open source, they may not be so as fancy as ChatGPT or Claude, right? They are in raw format, right? There is some other process that you need to make or you need to do to make it work for you.
Right. So, when we are talking about LLMs, definitely can you just, of course, you told me that there's a lot of data has been fed to it, but can you actually tell me that how are these transformers trained?
Right. Yeah. So that's a very nice question, right? So an LLM is possible because of an architecture called transformer, right? Previously, they were using convolutional neural networks. Basically, it's all neural network, but this is a transformer based neural network. So what is a neural network? What is a neuron?
So, for me, I know it's like our neural systems, which is connected from one thing to another thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. So we have neurons in the
Yeah.
brain, billions of them, right? So we process information because neurons, they send signals, they fire. So based on the same thing, they built these neural networks. So what is a network? It's a series of layers, right? For example, when you want to understand something, how do you do it? You don't just get it instantly, right? You
Yeah.
process, you think, you take through lots of steps, and then you understand. Similarly, a lot of processes, they happen inside our brain, so they tried depicting, replicating that. Initially, they had different other less powerful neural networks. Okay, later with all of these changes, they found, okay, yeah, a transformer neural network. Okay, so basically, there are two things in a transformer: encoder and decoder. Like, it's a very basic thing. So you give input and you get output, right? So when you feed data, for example, let's say you have a book, right? You have a book of 600 pages, right? Let's say there are about thousands, 100,000 words in it. Okay, so now you feed all those 100,000 words into the system, right? So that's when it gets complex,
Hmm.
right? So how does the system understand the meanings? Well, it has a mechanism, right? It understands the relative meaning. Okay, for example, a boy is going to, let's say I put a dash,
Park.
right? So you predict.
Yeah.
But the ultimate goal of this whole transformer is to be able to predict that next word. How does it predict? It needs to understand that various forms of that sentence, right? It needs to understand that, okay, boy is going to park. That park word is the highest probability word, right? So that's why all the text that you have will be fed and it will be encoded and decoded, right? So that means basically this transformer, it tries to understand the relation among the words, okay? How each word is related to the other word, right? Basically, what happens is they are not immediately perfect, right? So they feed the data and then they test. Is it predicting properly, right? So initially, the prediction capabilities would be very less. The score would be very less. Maybe it may start at 20%, 30%, 40%. And it when reaches the highest rate, then it is working. That means it will be continuously fed into these networks, right? It's not like in one go you get the complete outcome, right? So the learning process happens like that, and then there will be testing process, and then when they feel that, okay, it is actually doing the job, they release it. But you know what? This whole process takes a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of money also. Okay. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of it does. I mean, of course, I
So
can't
you
take it more than that also. Yeah. So that was a wonderful conversation having with you about LLMs. Definitely in the upcoming episodes, there are a lot of words that you have told me that I want to talk about more. That is, let's say, the LLM architecture. We can talk about in detail about that, and there are so many things that I want to learn. So of course, I'll keep paying you, buzzing you with all these things, and we'll connect soon.
sure, Prerna. Thank you very much
Thank
and
you.
looking forward.